Our country is in the midst of a full-blown, politically motivated judicial crisis. That's the conclusion of a new report from the Alliance for Justice, a watchdog group located here in Washington, D.C. That group looked at the number of federal judges confirmed since Republicans took over the Senate in January. What they found was shocking. So far this year, the Republican-controlled Senate has confirmed just 6 federal judges, the fewest it's confirmed in the first 8 months of a year since 1953. We've never seen anything like this before in our history, or at least not in our recent history. In fact, as of today, President Obama is on pace to have fewer judicial confirmations over the final 2 years of his presidency than any president since World War II. Even the Democratic-controlled Senate during the final years of the George W. Bush administration got its act together, did its constitutional duty, and approved 68 judges. Today's Republicans, though, could care less about doing their constitutional duty. They just hate President Obama. Even though Chief Justice John Roberts warned years ago that we were heading towards a major judicial crisis if something weren't done soon about the rising number of judicial vacancies, they've gone ahead and delayed votes, put off hearings, and done pretty much everything in their power to stop the Senate from voting on Obama's nominees. This, of course, comes as the number of federal judicial vacancies has jumped from 43 to 67, and the number of federal judicial emergencies has jumped from 12 to 31. Apparently, having a functioning court system isn't at the top of the list of Republican priorities. And here's the thing. It's not like the nominees President Obama has put forward are unqualified or super liberal. They're not. Every time one of his nominations has been put to a vote, they've been confirmed unanimously. What's really going on here is another example of the caucus room conspiracy, of course. The plot Republicans hatched on the day Obama took office to prevent him, our nation's first black president, from building any legacy whatsoever. On January 20th, 2009, the night when the Obamas were dancing at inaugural balls and most Americans were out celebrating the end of the Bush years, a group of powerful Republicans was planning the end of the Obama presidency even before it got going. At the Caucus Room restaurant right here in Washington, D.C., Republican leaders drew up a plan to intentionally sabotage Obama at every point possible. On the guest list for this invitation-only meeting were Republican senators like Jim DeMint, John Kyle, Tom Coburn, John Ensign, and Bob Corker. Also in attendance were Congressman Paul Ryan, Pete Sessions, Jeb Hensarling, Pete Hoekstra, Dan Lundgren, Eric Cantor, and Kevin McCarthy. The whole thing was orchestrated by Republican propaganda mastermind Frank Luntz, and over the course of 4 hours, this group, along with Newt Gingrich, of the most powerful conservative lawmakers in our country, committed themselves to a plan of action. They promised each other that they would filibuster and obstruct any and all legislation supported by this new president, Barack Hussein Obama. They would do everything possible for as long as it took to make Obama's presidency a failed presidency. Congressman Pete Sessions of Texas compared the plan to the tactics of the Taliban insurgency in Afghanistan. He said, "Insurgency, we understand perhaps a little bit more because of the Taliban, and that is that they went about systematically understanding how to disrupt and change a person's entire processes. And we need to understand that insurgency may be required when the other side, the House leadership," he was speaking of Nancy Pelosi, "does not follow the same commands which we entered the game with." The current crisis in the federal judiciary is just another front in this Republican insurgency campaign. It's the political version of guerrilla warfare. And the really scary thing about it is that it's not just about sabotage. Screwing over President Obama is great as far as Republicans are concerned, but it's really more of a means to an end, the total takeover of the American federal judiciary. Ever since the Powell memo suggested this in 1972, corporatist conservatives have made hijacking our nation's top courts one of their top priorities. And they've done a pretty damn good job about it, too. The far-right Federalist Society, for example, now dominates our court system and our Supreme Court. But if Republicans can successfully keep their manufactured judicial crisis going until President Obama leaves office in January 2017, that'll be the real Republican victory. If they manage to both hold on to the Senate in 2016 and win the White House, they will get to fill the vacancies that they've allowed to stay vacant with as many hard-right, corporate, and billionaire-friendly judges as they want. If that happens, you can kiss labor laws, environmental laws, and maybe even our universal health care system, to the extent that it is, you can kiss them all goodbye. The stakes really are that high. which is why Democrats need to start fighting back against the Republican insurgency with everything they have. Like guerrilla armies throughout history, today's Republicans are successful because they break all the rules of the game and have a clear end game. The only way Democrats can beat them is to have a clear end game themselves and to fight tooth and nail to achieve it. That means getting out the vote and, as difficult as it might sound right now, campaigning hard for whoever ends up winning the Democratic nomination for president, and fighting particularly hard for state, local, and congressional progressives. The future's at stake, and right now the Republicans in Congress are trying to strangle it.